The series begins with an introduction to the Squid Game. It is an old childhood game, with kids divided into two teams, that of defense and attack. The attackers aim to reach a small, closed-off area, while defenders try to push them out of bounds. Though the stakes are metaphorical for children, the game's rules lay the foundation for the harrowing challenges. Fast forward to the present, where we meet Gi-hun, a man whose life is in shambles, struggling with a gambling addiction. He scrapes together money to bet on horse races. Surprisingly, luck smiles on him, and he wins 4.5 million won. But his joy is short-lived, as he owes a staggering 160 million won to loan sharks. Adding to his misfortune, a pickpocket snatches his winnings during a chaotic chase. Forced into a corner, Gi-hun signs a contract pledging his kidney as collateral, sealing the deal with a bloody fingerprint. Despite his dire situation, Gi-hun wants to make his daughter Ga-young's birthday special. He tries his luck at a claw machine, and a young boy helps him win, though the prize turns out to be a lighter shaped like a gun. However, his effort does little to mend the strained relationship with Ga-young's mother, who scolds him for returning the girl late, even if it's just 10 minutes. While trying to board the train, a mysterious salesman with a briefcase approaches Gi-hun, proposing a game of dokji. He says Gi-hun will earn 100,000 won for every win, but for every loss, he owes the same amount. As Gi-hun repeatedly loses, he endures humiliating slaps in place of cash payment. After a very long time, Gi-hun's face looking red from all the slaps he had to endure, he finally wins a round, and the man gives him the 100,000 won as promised. Gi-hun excitedly counts his money, and the man informs him that there are other games like that where he can make even more money. Gi-hun refuses to partake, and the man reminds him of his life's pitiful story. This makes Gi-hun shocked as the man knows a lot about him. He asks who he is, and the salesman hands over a business card and tells Gi-hun to call, warning him there are only a few spots left. Gi-hun is riding a high over his win, but things take a depressing turn when he heads home, and his mother informs him that Ga-young is going to the US with her mother and stepdad. She then says she spoke to a lawyer, and if Gi-hun can show that he's financially dependable, he may be able to stop that. Later at night, Gi-hun decides to call the salesman, saying he is interested in entering the games. Gi-hun is picked up by the roadside in a bus, and as he enters the bus filled with other people sleeping, he is knocked out with sleeping gas, and he later wakes up in a strange room, monitored by numerous people wearing red hooded jackets. He finds himself among 456 contestants, all trapped in a massive room, and he sees an old man who is labeled number 1. He asks the man why he is there in his old age, and the man replies that he does not have much time left as he has a brain tumor. A tense altercation erupts between contestants 101 and 67, with accusations of espionage flying. Gi-hun intervenes to defuse the situation, but he realizes that the girl was the pickpocketer who stole the money he earned from gambling. Soon, masked figures in red uniforms enter, to welcome them and explain the rules, that over 6 days, the contestants will play 6 games, with a life-changing cash prize at stake. A man complains that they were brought to the place against their will, and one of the masked men explains that it is to maintain confidentiality. Other contestants join the man to argue, and the masked man shows a clip where the contestants are being slapped during the game of dokji. The man then reminds them that they all have debts they cannot pay off, and they decide to trust them and call after playing the dokji game for free money. He then says he will give them one last chance, and he asks if they will go back to their old depressing lives, or if they will seize the opportunity given to them. A man asks what games they will be playing, and the masked man explains that in order to play fair, the games will not be revealed until it is time to play them. Gi-hun then asks how much they will be winning, and a huge box is displayed, with the masked man saying the prize will be revealed after the first game. Each player, drowning in debt, signs a consent form before ascending colorful staircases to have their picture taken and to start the first game's arena. The contestants get to a large field, and as they spread out, Gi-hun meets Sang-woo, a childhood friend who is supposed to be on a business trip. Gi-hun asks his questions on why he is there, but Sang-woo ignores his questions and tells him the game is about to start, leaving Gi-hun confused. A giant robotic doll announces that the first game is red light, green light, and the players must cross from one side to the other, moving only when the light is green. Any movement during red light results in immediate elimination, and they must cross over within 5 minutes. The contestants are surprised to hear this as it is a childhood game they played. But they get prepared, and as the timer starts, they start running. As the robot doll says, "Red light," they all stop. But a man moves slightly, and a loud bang is heard, and the man falls to the ground. As the game continues, the others realize that the loud bang is a sniper that killed the man, which leads to chaos as gunfire fills the air, and panicked contestants are mercilessly gunned down. Amid the carnage, Gi-hun narrowly survives, but he is scared as he falls to the ground, refusing to stand and move forward. Sang-woo tells him to stand when the robot doll says the green light, but he is too shaken until another contestant reminds him of the timer. After a while, with mere seconds left on the clock, Gi-hun is about to fall as the doll says red light, but a contestant, Ali, holds him up, and together they make it across the finish line. Those left behind are mercilessly executed. As the game concludes, the roof of the arena closes, revealing that the contestants are stranded on an isolated island with no way out. The remaining contestants are back in the huge room looking shocked. Gi-hun takes a moment to thank Sang-woo and Ali, the fellow contestants who helped him survive. Soon enough, the masked staff enter the room to announce the results. They reveal that out of the original 456 players, only 201 have made it past the first round. This news sends the room into a panic, with players begging to be released. The staff remind them that they had signed a form, but the contestants insist they should be allowed to leave. Sang-woo reminds the staff that the form states if all players agree, the game can end, and he leads the effort to organize a vote to stop the games entirely and send everyone home. The staff agree, but before voting begins, the prize money is counted. They explain there is 100 million won per contestant, totaling a staggering 25.5 billion won. The stakes become clear. If they quit, the money will go to the families of the deceased, while the survivors leave empty-handed. This makes the decision even harder. As the voting begins, Gi-hun, as the last number, votes to stay, influencing others, though some vote to leave. The vote teeters on a knife edge, with player 001, the old man, holding the deciding vote. In a surprising twist, he chooses to stop the games, bringing the process to a halt. Relief washes over some players, while others are visibly disappointed. Before being sent back to their grim realities, the group is told they might have another chance to rejoin if they change their minds. Returning to his bleak everyday life, Sang-woo finds himself bombarded with relentless text messages about his massive debt, 6 billion won to be exact. Despite his troubles, Sang-woo helps Ali, who shows up at his door, desperate and struggling with his own issues. Meanwhile, Gi-hun heads to the police, hoping someone will believe his wild story about the games. Instead, he's met with skepticism, as the number on the mysterious business card connects to an unsuspecting woman. Frustrated and without answers, Gi-hun realizes the contestants are truly alone. Sang-woo sneaks to see his mother, and Gi-hun meets him there. They talk for a while, and Gi-hun advises him to confess his debt, reassuring him that he is still the pride of the town. However, Sang-woo refuses, revealing he used his mother's house and shop as collateral. Gi-hun receives a call and rushes to the hospital, where he learns his mother's health has worsened. Her diabetes has progressed to the point where amputation is a possibility, but she refuses treatment to avoid burdening Gi-hun with more debt. This makes Gi-hun determined to help her, vowing to find the money she needs. A police officer is searching for his brother, and as he searches his room, he finds a card and remembers it is the same one Gi-hun brought to the station. He rushes back to the station, asking for more details on where he can find Gi-hun. Meanwhile, Ali's situation takes a dramatic turn when his boss refuses to pay him his rightful wages. A heated argument leads to an accident where the boss's hand is crushed, and as he drops a stack of cash, Ali takes it and flees. Sang-woo's mother is later confronted by the police, asking about his whereabouts. They explain there is a warrant for his arrest on charges of forgery, embezzlement, and other crimes. Sang-woo's mother argues there must be a mistake, but they leave, saying she should contact them if she knows his whereabouts, leaving the old woman heartbroken. Back home, Ali gives the money he took from his boss to his wife, urging her to pack up and leave with their child for a safer life. In a chance encounter, Gi-hun runs into player 001 while drinking soju. The two share dried ramen and soju outside a shop, and the older man reveals his decision to rejoin the games despite the risks. Elsewhere, Deoksu, player 101, a mob boss, faces trouble of his own. Pursued by even bigger criminals, he sees the games as his best shot at escape. He plans with a colleague to be better prepared, aiming to outsmart the organizers and take all the prize money for himself. Gi-hun goes to Ga-young's mother, telling her about his mother's condition and begging for money. She tells him to leave as her husband is about to get home with the kids and she cannot help him. As they argue, her husband and the kids enter, and Gi-hun leaves, promising to see Ga-young later. However, her husband follows Gi-hun out and gives him money, telling him to stop contacting his family. This makes Gi-hun angry, and he punches the man. Ga-young witnesses this and feels sad. On his way back home, Gi-hun meets Jun-ho, the police officer searching for his brother. Jun-ho approaches Gi-hun for help, but Gi-hun refuses, focusing on his own struggles. He later finds a card inviting him back to the game. It turns out some other contestants also receive the cards and they make their choices, preparing to re-enter the games. Each willingly boards the vehicles, allowing themselves to be drugged once more. Unbeknownst to the organizers, Jun-ho secretly tails them in his car. Meanwhile, player 67, the pickpocket, cleverly fakes being unconscious, proving she's ready to play on her own terms. Jun-ho tails the black cars all the way to Mujin Port, watching as these identical vehicles prepare to board a ferry bound for the mysterious island. Despite the opportunity to call for backup or take photos, Jun-ho instead sends a brief message to his chief, claiming he'll be late and proceeds to stow away inside one of the cars. Knocking out a guard and stealing his uniform, he blends in with the staff, disposing of the guard's body at sea, along with his own identification. Once on the island, a coordinated team of staff silently goes to work, stripping the returning contestants of their belongings and depositing them in the dormitory. Among the 187 players who chose to return, Gi-hun reunites with Sang-woo, Ali, and Player 1, the old man forming an alliance. Meanwhile, Deoksu wastes no time creating his own faction. He tries to recruit the pickpocketing girl, but she refuses and even taunts him by telling his followers of his atrocities. This makes Deoksu angry, but before he can retaliate, a female contestant interferes, saying she is willing to join his group. Instead of accepting her, Deoksu and his followers make fun of her. While eating their meal, Gi-hun and his group wonder what the next game will be. He lists out a lot of games they played as kids, but Ali says he is not familiar with any of the games, and Sang-woo promises to carry him along. As the contestants are fed and settled in, the staff retreats to their quarters, which turn out to be just as confining as the dormitory, with strict rules forbidding them from removing their masks. A hierarchy within the staff is revealed, with symbols on their masks denoting their ranks, all under the constant surveillance of higher-ranking personnel. The female contestant whom Deoksu refused to join his group makes a fuss about using the toilet. After a while, she is allowed to go there, and she brings out the cigarettes she sneaks into the place to smoke. As she is smoking, the pickpocketer, player 67, joins her and brings out a knife she had sneaked in. She unscrews the vent in the toilet and tells the woman to watch out for the masked guards, while she goes through the tunnel to see if she can find anything. As she crawls through the tunnel, she finds the kitchen and sees some masked men cooking. The next day, player 67 tells the other lady she saw some masked men melting sugar in the kitchen. Soon, the second game is announced, and the players are faced with 4 doors, each bearing a distinct symbol: a triangle, circle, star, or umbrella. Sang-woo, having overheard the ladies' conversation the night before, asks player 67 what she saw, and she tells him she smelt burnt sugar in the staff's kitchen. Sang-woo realizes that they will be playing the game Sugar Honeycomb, where contestants must delicately carve their chosen shape out of a brittle honeycomb without breaking it. However, he keeps his suspicions to himself, and he wisely opts for a triangle, which is the simplest. Ali picks a circle, leaving Gi-hun unknowingly to select the most challenging shape, an umbrella, while the old man picks a star. The contestants form a line in front of the shape they pick, and as they are given the box containing the shape, they finally understand the game they are to play and the fact that failure means instant execution. As the 10-minute timer begins, the tension mounts. Sang-woo, Ali, and player 67 manage to complete their shapes successfully, while other contestants struggle with the brittle candy. Among the players is a particularly cunning man, player 111, who has been receiving covert assistance from an insider. Smuggled notes hidden in food, like a bread roll, give him an edge over his competitors. With time running out and desperation rising, Gi-hun discovers an unconventional solution, licking the honeycomb to thin it out and make the shape easier to carve. His quick thinking saves him, and others begin mimicking his technique. Both he and player 1 succeed, just as the clock runs out. The game ends in chaos as one defiant contestant seizes a staff member's gun. The remaining players who fail are executed, but the contestant holds the masked man at gunpoint and forces him to remove his mask. As he realizes that he is just a young boy, the player turns the gun on himself instead. Meanwhile, this defiance prompts the arrival of the ominous frontman, who swiftly kills the unmasked staff member as a brutal reminder of the rule that no identities are to be revealed. In the aftermath, Junho quietly participates in the cleanup, seizing the boy's discarded mask to maintain his cover and blend further into the shadowy operation. Player 111 is discreetly led away from the dormitory to a concealed passage, accompanied by one of the staff members. He is taken into a hidden chamber, while another staffer deletes the CCTV footage, ensuring their secretive operation remains unnoticed. Meanwhile, back in the dormitory, Sang-woo apologizes to Gi-hun for suggesting that they pick different shapes, but Gi-hun reassures him that there is no issue. However, a more immediate problem arises when Deok-soo and his group blatantly break the rules, helping themselves to a second portion of their meager meal of eggs and water. This selfish act leaves 5 contestants without food, sparking outrage. As tensions rise, Deok-soo viciously beats a man to death, with the staff silently observing. Their only action is the cheerful chime that signals the addition of more prize money as the deceased player is removed. The bodies are taken to the infirmary, where Junho, now in disguise, manages to steal a square mask, upgrading his role to that of a supervisor. Meanwhile, player 111, who clearly has insider knowledge, continues collaborating with the cleanup crew on a secret mission, removing body parts from the dead contestants. Through his informants, he learns that the reduced rations were a deliberate ploy by the organizers to incite chaos and weed out the weaklings. Inside his egg, another hidden message awaits, though he quickly consumes it, leaving only hints about the next game. He's advised to stick with the strongest group, which naturally leads him to Deok-soo's gang. To seal the deal, 111 shares details about the upcoming game with Deok-soo. As night falls, chaos erupts as the simmering tension boils over, with Deok-soo and his gang launching a brutal attack on the other contestants using broken glass and knives. The dormitory is thrown into disarray, the flickering lights adding to the pandemonium as players fight for survival. Amid the chaos, Gi-hun frantically searches for player 1, fearing for the old man's safety, but the old man is missing from his bed. Player 67 soon joins Gi-hun as he had told her to come if issues arise, but Deok-soo wants to kill her, and the two groups fight until player 1 climbs onto the beds, trembling and pleading for everyone to stop, claiming he is terrified. The frontman watches the carnage unfold and, once satisfied, finally orders the guards, who had been waiting by the doors all along, to intervene and restore order, hinting that this bloodbath was part of the plan. In the aftermath, more details about the contestants come to light. Player 67 reveals her name is Se-byok, while player 1 appears shaken, showing signs of dementia and struggling to recall his own name. Meanwhile, Junho notices the man in the neighboring room coughing in a peculiar rhythm. Suspecting it might be Morse code, Junho jots down the sequence of dashes and dots, deciphering it as number 29, which coincidentally matches the room he is occupying. Before he can investigate further, the third game is announced. This next game is a team challenge, requiring contestants to form groups of 10 within a 10-minute time limit. Player 111, already aware of what lies ahead, urges Deok-soo to recruit more men, emphasizing the need for physical strength. Sang-woo also tells his group that they should all bring in a man to make their group strong, but Se-byok brings in a girl, and the old man is unable to recruit anyone. Meanwhile, Deok-soo dismisses player 212, Han Min-yo, despite their private encounter, but she ends up joining Gi-hun's group, to Sang-woo's evident frustration. When time is up, the groups enter another room, only to discover that the game is a high-stakes tug-of-war. The realization is grim, as the teams are placed on suspended platforms high above the ground, where losing means plunging to certain death. This makes Sang-woo more frustrated as his team contains 3 females. They are asked to sit, while Deoksu's group and another group are picked to play the game first. Deoksu's team wins the game easily while the other team plunges to their death, which makes the others worried. The next teams to play are Team 4, Gi-hun's group, and Team 5, which consists entirely of men. Tension escalates as both teams brace themselves for the challenge. Surprisingly, Player 1 proves invaluable, sharing strategic advice on how to win. His strategy helps until the other team starts to gain foot, and Team 4 starts losing ground. As the game intensifies, Sang-woo makes a bold call, instructing his team to move forward 3 steps even though they are already too close to the edge. Team 4 steps forward as planned, catching Team 5 off guard and forcing them off balance, with Gi-hun barely managing to hang on by a thread. The risky move pays off, and Team 4 emerges victorious, pulling themselves back from the brink of elimination. While the group heads back to their dormitory, the workers deceive the frontman and the others in charge. After marking one of the caskets with a bloody cross last time out, the body is dropped before hitting the incinerator. This drops to a secret chamber where the body is seen by 2 defected workers, numbers 28 and 29. Given that Junho has taken over number 29's room, he is thrust into this role. Back in the dorm, Han Minyo praises the old man and Sang-woo for coming up with the strategies that help them win. Sang-woo points out that she was cast away from her group, and it seems they already know the game. The group later sets up a barricade, not willing to take any chances given the attack before, and they do not want to see another massacre. As they are doing that, Deoksu taunts Gi-hun, saying the barricade is not enough to stop them. Gi-hun replies that he should be more worried about his teammates as they are not trustworthy, as there's no honor among thieves. This annoys Deoksu, and as he returns to his team, they ask him which group to attack at night, but he tells them to rest for the night. Player 111, the doctor, is revealed to have struck a deal with these corrupt workers. In exchange for his surgical expertise in harvesting organs from the deceased players, he receives inside knowledge about the upcoming games. The workers smuggle the organs to the mainland, keeping their covert operation running under the radar as long as the CCTV footage remains wiped. It's a mutually beneficial arrangement if they can stay undetected. As the harvested organs are prepared for transport, Junho, still disguised as number 29, quietly plays along, blending in with the group. However, tensions rise as player 111 begins to lose trust in the workers, especially when they refuse to divulge information about the next game. Frustrated and suspicious, he attacks them and bolts from the room, navigating the maze-like hallways and emerging onto the familiar playground. His movements, however, are tracked by numerous cameras. Meanwhile, in the depths of the facility, Junho's true identity is exposed to number 28. Confronting him, Junho accuses the man of being involved in his brother's disappearance, but number 28 denies it. However, he reveals a horrifying truth. There's a list detailing all the individuals they've operated on, including a girl they assaulted before harvesting her organs. Overwhelmed with disgust, Junho shoots him without hesitation. Above ground, the frontman arrives, swiftly putting an end to the chaos. Without hesitation, he shoots the unmasked worker dead in front of player 111, sending a clear message that fairness in the games is paramount, and any deviation from the rules is punishable by death. The doctor's fate is sealed as well. He is executed, and the arrangement is terminated in brutal finality. As they search for the other masked men's bodies, they find the body of the man Junho killed, and the frontman realizes that there is an imposter among them as the bullet is different from what they have. Alarms blare throughout the facility, initiating a frantic search while Junho sneaks into the record room, where he discovers a trove of files labeled as the Squid Archives. Sorting through medical records and personal details of the players, he stumbles upon a black box tied with a pink ribbon. Inside is a list of winners dating back to 1990, and among them, he finds a name that shakes him to his core: Player 132, Hwang In-ho. Checking the 2015 file, he confirms the devastating truth. His brother was indeed part of these games. The next day, the masked guards search the contestants, and Gi-hun, showing his compassionate side, helps Player 1 by wrapping a hooded jumper around the elderly man's midsection to conceal his wet patches. Despite his outward composure, Player 1 is visibly scared, although he has done an admirable job hiding it so far. However, on their way to play the next game, the fragile sense of calm is shattered when the remaining players are confronted with the grim sight of the doctor and the corrupt guards hanging lifeless in the stairwell. This gruesome display serves as a stark warning that anyone attempting to cheat or gain an unfair advantage will face dire consequences. The message is loud and clear, leaving the players deeply unsettled. Meanwhile, Junho delves deeper into his investigation, snapping photos of crucial evidence in the archive room. As he works, the frontman receives a phone call, forcing Junho to hide. The frontman confirms that the next game will proceed as planned, and he takes a steadying breath as he prepares to oversee the next phase of the twisted competition. The upcoming game requires players to pair up, sealing their partnerships with a handshake. Minyo becomes the odd one out as no one, including Sang-woo and Gi-hun, wants to team up with her. Sang-woo teams up with Ali, while Gi-hun later pairs with player 1 as he learns the odd one out would be killed. As the 10-minute timer runs out, Minyo is left screaming and resisting as the guards drag her away. The teams head to the game area, where they're handed bags containing 10 marbles each. The goal is to win all of the other players' marbles within 30 minutes, but this task proves excruciating, as most players have paired with people they trust. As the games commence, player 1 becomes distracted, wandering through the makeshift neighborhood designed to mimic his old home. He insists on finding his house, leaving Gi-hun frustrated and desperate. Gi-hun pleads with him to play, shouting at the elderly man and holding him tightly, and eventually, they agree to play odd and even, although player 1 is pretty nonchalant about the whole affair. Elsewhere, Deoksu's minion nearly defeats him, boldly mocking him at the brink of victory. However, Deoksu's life is spared as the staff permits him to switch to another game, saving him from elimination. Meanwhile, Ali wins almost all of Sang-woo's marbles, which makes Sang-woo angry, as Ali had claimed not to know the game before. He pulls Ali's shirt in anger, but the masked guard with them points his gun, which makes Sang-woo stop. Saebyok shares intimate details about her past with Ji-young, revealing her escape from North Korea and her dream of reuniting her family on Jeju Island. Back with Sang-woo and Ali, the trust between them shatters, but Sang-woo convinces Ali to hand over his marbles, promising a collaborative strategy. Meanwhile, Gi-hun is about to lose all his marbles to the old man, but the man acts like he did not hear what Gi-hun said, which helps Gi-hun keep his last marble. Sang-woo switches the marbles for a bag of rocks, betraying Ali and leaving him to face a fatal end. However, Ji-young selflessly sacrifices herself, admitting she has nothing left to live for, and allows Saebyok to win. As time ticks away, gunshots ring out across the game area, signaling the end for many. Gi-hun, losing patience, confronts player 1 outside what resembles his old house. The old man has one marble left after losing to Gi-hun on purpose, and they both have a heartfelt conversation. Player 1 chooses to surrender, allowing Gi-hun to take his marbles. In a bittersweet farewell, player 1 reveals his name, Il-nam, and embraces Gi-hun one final time. Walking away with tears streaming down his face, Gi-hun hears the heartbreaking gunshot behind him. The cleanup crew gets to work clearing away the deceased, while the frontman learns that the intruder, Junho, is still at large. However, more urgent matters demand his attention, as VIP investors are on their way to the facility. Back in the dormitories, the survivors return to find Minyo still alive. Rather than being eliminated, she was merely sent back to wait for the next round. With 17 players remaining, the stakes have risen to a total prize of 43.9 billion won as they approach the 5th game. Meanwhile, the frontman notices something amiss in his office. The phone receiver has been placed incorrectly. He suspects the intruder has been there, but before he can investigate further, his subordinates interrupt with an urgent message. A body has washed up on the northern shore of the island, and alongside it, Junho's police ID, confirming their suspicion that he's the infiltrator. The VIP guests arrive, wearing elaborate masks, and are escorted into the facility. The host is unavailable due to urgent business, leaving the frontman to welcome them. These wealthy individuals aren't just there to spectate, they're also there to bet on the games, adding a grotesque layer to the proceedings. Listening to the vents, Junho overhears their conversations and uses the opportunity to disguise himself as one of the VIP caterers by stealing a mask and uniform. Before the 5th game begins, tragedy strikes as player 69 hangs himself, unable to cope with his wife's death in the previous round, evening the numbers among the remaining players. The VIPs settle into their seats, ready to watch the next twisted spectacle, as the players are instructed to select mannequins and wear the vests displayed on them. These vests determine the order in which they'll participate in the game. Player 96 opts to go first, while Gi-hun reluctantly chooses vest 16, placing him last. The game, called Glass Stepping Stones, challenges players to cross a bridge made of glass panels, some of which are tempered and can hold a person's weight, while others are normal glass and will shatter. It's a test of nerve and luck, with a 15-minute time limit for everyone to cross. Player 96 is the first to step forward, but plunges to his death almost immediately. As the game progresses, players take turns choosing their path, jumping from one panel to the next. Impatience grows as time runs out, leading to a chain reaction of pushing, starting with a religious player and spreading through the line. In the VIP lounge, Junho finds himself in a precarious situation with one of the guests. The sleazy VIP demands Junho unmask, but he cleverly avoids revealing his identity by suggesting they move somewhere private. Once alone, Junho turns the tables, holding the man at gunpoint and recording him as he demands answers about the games. Back at the game, Deoksu ends up at the front but refuses to move, demanding that others take the lead instead. His standoff comes to a dramatic end when Minyo confronts him. She sacrifices herself by dragging him down with her, sending them both plummeting to their doom. Meanwhile, in the VIP lounge, the front man senses something is wrong and sends men to investigate the VIP room where Junho and the man are. Back in the game, player 13 reveals his knowledge of glass manufacturing, which allows him to distinguish between the two types of glass. He admits that he hesitated to share this advantage earlier, fearing that killers like Deoksu would exploit it. Unfortunately, the frontman and VIPs catch on and shut off the lights, forcing the remaining players to rely on pure faith. Sang-woo seizes the moment to show his ruthless side, pushing player 13 to his death to ensure his own survival. In the end, Se-byuk and Gi-hun manage to make it across, just as shards of glass explode into the air like deadly confetti. With the game over and the VIPs elated, Junho makes his escape, diving into the ocean. However, the frontman and his men give chase, closing in on him aboard a boat. The three finalists descend the stairs, their movements leaving a trail of blood behind as they make their way back to the dormitory. Junho, having returned to the island, clings to his phone, which he has carefully sealed in a watertight bag. Meanwhile, back in the game, tension simmers as Sang-woo and Gi-hun clash. Their animosity is briefly interrupted when a guard arrives with a surprising gift for the finalists, which includes new outfits and a sumptuous meal. Se-byuk has a lot of difficulty while changing, and it turns out she was cut deeply in the stomach when glass in the previous game exploded. She barely manages to tie her shirt around her stomach in a bid to stop the bleeding. Junho's phone contains vital evidence, including footage and details of the dead VIP guest, that could expose the horrifying events taking place. Dodging the relentless pursuit of the frontman, Junho makes his way toward the main facility. Realizing the gravity of his situation, he calls the police chief, urging him to track his signal and send a squad to the island. The trio, seated at a triangular table, share what feels like a foreboding final supper. Se-byuk, visibly struggling, barely touches her food. As the meal concludes, each player silently receives a knife while their plates are cleared, making the air heavy with anticipation. Meanwhile, Junho's escape plan falters when the front man and his men corner him on a cliff, leaving him with only a single bullet and dwindling options. On the cliff edge, Junho comes face to face with the shocking revelation that the front man is his brother, In-ho, who has been missing from the mainland for so long. Junho stares at his brother in confusion, and In-ho tells him to join him, but Junho shakes his head in refusal. In-ho shoots him, causing him to fall off the cliff. Later that night, Gi-hun sits beside Se-byuk in the dormitory, pledging to defeat Sang-woo and split the prize money with her fairly. He tells her about his mother and daughter, and she tells him she has a brother the same age as his daughter at an orphanage. Se-byuk suggests they make a deal that if any of them leaves the island alive, they would take care of the other person's loved ones. Gi-hun refuses, saying they will leave the place together, but she insists. He notices that Sang-woo has fallen asleep. Gi-hun contemplates killing his old friend to eliminate the threat, but Se-byuk stops him, saying he is a good person at heart, and should not do that. Se-byuk's condition deteriorates rapidly as her injury causes her to lose blood at an alarming rate. Desperate to save her, Gi-hun stands and calls for help from the guards, but tragically, before aid arrives, Sang-woo seizes the opportunity and swiftly kills Se-byuk. The guards arriving too late, bring a casket for her body as Gi-hun, consumed by rage, vows revenge. Meanwhile, In-ho removes the bullet from where Jun-ho had shot him. The weight of his actions is evident as he later struggles with his emotions, staring into a mirror and seeing Jun-ho instead of his reflection. Sae-byok's body is placed in the incinerator, leaving the grim finale to unfold between the last two men standing, Gi-hun and Sang-woo. With only Sang-woo and Gi-hun remaining, the stakes reach their peak as this final challenge pits them against each other. Gi-hun chooses offense while Sang-woo takes on defense. The VIPs watch eagerly from above, and the frontman, narrating the rules, emphasizes how this game is one of the most physical and violent from their childhood. As the rain pours down, the two men engage in a brutal fight, exchanging punches and strikes relentlessly. Gi-hun wields a pocket knife, but Sang-woo seizes it and stabs Gi-hun multiple times. However, Gi-hun counters by biting into Sang-woo's leg, weakening him. Just when Gi-hun seems ready to deliver a fatal blow, he hesitates, choosing instead to spare Sang-woo's life and walk toward the finish line. Yet, he stops short, invoking Rule 3 to end the games and forego the prize money in order to save his old friend. Sang-woo, unwilling to accept this, stabs himself in the neck, urging Gi-hun to help his mother before succumbing to his injuries. Gi-hun, now the default winner, is blindfolded and escorted to a limo where the frontman explains the games as a twisted form of entertainment, akin to betting on horses. Gi-hun is drugged and dumped on the street, but not before discovering a credit card in his mouth. When Gi-hun accesses the card, he discovers an astronomical balance of 45.9 billion won, yet he withdraws a mere 10,000 won. Wandering back to his old neighborhood, he encounters Sang-woo's mother, who offers him mackerel, unaware of her son's fate. Unable to break the devastating news, Gi-hun heads home, only to find his mother lying lifeless on the floor. Overwhelmed by grief, he cradles her in his arms, mourning her loss. A year passes, and Gi-hun is a shadow of his former self. When summoned by the bank manager to discuss growing his financial assets, he declines, requesting just 10,000 won instead. He is sitting at a beach drinking when a woman approaches him, offering flowers for sale. She explains that she needs to get rid of them or they will wilt, and Gi-hun buys one from her. The woman drops the rose beside him, and Gi-hun later notices it holds a black envelope tied with a red ribbon. Inside, a business card directs him to meet at the Sky Building's 7th floor on December 24th at 11:30 p.m. The sender? Your Ganbu. Arriving on time, Gi-hun is completely shocked, unable to accept that this man is alive. However, the shocking truth is that Il-nam is actually a part of all this and helped to set up the games. He explains that he makes a living out of lending money to others and called Gi-hun over because he's noticed that he hasn't spent any of the money he's won. Il-nam quizzes him, believing Gi-hun is suffering badly from guilt over all those who have lost their lives in the games, which would also explain why Gi-hun is still scrounging a living. The elderly man, revealing himself as the mastermind behind the games, confesses that he and a group of wealthy elites created the deadly competition to entertain themselves and spend their excess money. The VIPs, as he explains, bet on participants like racehorses, finding amusement in their suffering. Il-nam also discloses that he joined the games out of boredom and a desire to experience joy before succumbing to his terminal illness, and he got to experience that thanks to Gi-hun. As midnight strikes, Il-nam passes away, for real this time, leaving Gi-hun to grapple with the full truth of the games and his role in them. Determined to change, Gi-hun undergoes a transformation, dyeing his hair red and setting out to help others. He takes Sae-byok's brother to Sang-woo's mother, entrusting her with a suitcase filled with cash and a note explaining its repayment for Sang-woo. On his way to the airport, Gi-hun witnesses a familiar scene. A sleazy businessman playing the envelope game with another victim. He quickly intervenes, snatching the card and warning the man not to participate. At the airport, after calling his daughter, Gi-hun is overcome with rage and vows to the front man that he will bring down the games. Instead of boarding his plane, he turns around and resolves to fight back and put an end to the horrors once and for all. If you enjoyed this recap, hit that like button and subscribe for more. Drop your thoughts in the comments below and see you next time.